There's a fascinating, almost mystical veil that often seems to shroud the act of decision-making, transforming a simple choice into a profound moment of destiny. Every single one of us, man or woman, stands at countless crossroads throughout our lives, each path leading to an unknown future, shaped by the choices we dare to make. But when we speak of female decision-making, an entirely different set of whispers seems to emerge from the shadows. For centuries, and even in many corners of our modern world, the way women navigate these crossroads has been observed, analyzed, praised, and often unfairly judged. There's a persistent narrative, a surface-level understanding that suggests women are inherently more emotional, more intuitive, perhaps even more irrational in their choices. But beneath these simplistic veneers, these convenient labels, lie far darker truths, deeper complexities, and a hidden architecture of thought processes that are rarely acknowledged, let alone truly understood. What if the very traits often dismissed as weaknesses are, in fact, sources of a profound, often overlooked, strength? And what if the weight of the world, the silent burdens carried, shape every single choice in ways we dare not imagine? To truly peer into the heart of female decision-making is to first dismantle the simplistic assumptions that have historically constrained it. It's to recognize that a woman's choice is rarely made in a vacuum. It is a decision often woven into a rich, intricate tapestry of context, consequence, and connection, a web of relationships and responsibilities that extends far beyond her individual self. Where a man's decision might be seen as a solitary act of will, a woman's is frequently perceived, and indeed often experienced, as an act that resonates through her family, her community, her social fabric. This isn't just about cultural expectations. It's about a deeply ingrained psychological reality, a profound awareness of interconnectedness that influences every step she takes, every yes, and every no. The darker truth here isn't an inherent flaw, but the immense, often invisible, pressure to make choices that optimize for the collective, not just the individual. Think about the sheer cognitive load. From the earliest days of human existence, women have often been at the epicenter of survival, nurturing life, maintaining social bonds, ensuring the safety and cohesion of the group. While the physical threats have evolved, the underlying psychological programming for vigilance and broad-spectrum consequence analysis remains. A woman contemplating a career move isn't just weighing salary and personal ambition. She might also be subconsciously factoring in the impact on childcare, on her partner's career, on the emotional stability of her household, and on how her choice might be perceived by her peers or family. It's not a single decision point, but a multi-layered matrix of interconnected variables, each with its own emotional valence and potential ripple effect. This is the unseen calculus, the profound mental gymnastics performed behind every choice, making it far more exhaustive, and at times, far more agonizing than a purely self-centric deliberation. This constant, often subconscious, scanning for implications means that intuition in female decision-making is often a highly sophisticated, rapid-fire integration of vast amounts of data, emotional cues, subtle social dynamics, past experiences, and potential future scenarios, processed at an accelerated rate, sometimes before it even reaches conscious thought. It's not a mystical hunch divorced from logic, but a lightning-fast synthesis of information, born from a lifetime of observation and a biological imperative for foresight. The dark truth here is that this profound cognitive skill, this invaluable ability to read between the lines and anticipate outcomes, is frequently dismissed as mere emotionality, rather than being recognized as a high-level form of intelligence. It is a dismissal that robs both the individual woman and society at large of truly appreciating and leveraging this nuanced decision-making prowess. And then there's the pervasive influence of fear. Not just the fear of personal failure, which is universal, but a more insidious, multifaceted fear. The fear of being perceived as too aggressive, too demanding, too emotional, or not enough in any given role, whether as a leader, a mother, a partner, or a friend. Every decision, every assertion of will can be filtered through this lens of potential judgment, leading to choices that are subtly modulated, softened, or even entirely suppressed, not because they are inherently wrong, but because the societal cost of expressing them might be too high. This isn't a lack of courage. It's a strategic negotiation with a world that often holds women to a different, often harsher, standard of behavior and consequence. The darkness lies in the self-censorship, the internal debate that often precedes the external choice, a debate few men are ever forced to wage with such intensity. Consider the classic scenario of negotiation. A woman approaching a salary discussion isn't just armed with market data. She's often also burdened by the subconscious awareness that advocating too forcefully for herself might be perceived negatively, might make her seem difficult or unlikable. Tropes that rarely apply with the same ferocity to her male counterparts. Her decision to push harder or to accept a compromise is not a simple economic calculation. It's a tightrope walk over a chasm of gendered expectations. This fear of social backlash, of damaging relationships or reputation, is a potent, often invisible, force that shapes her choices, often leading her to settle for less. Not because she values herself less, but because the implicit social penalty for demanding more is too heavy. This brings us to the profound and often misunderstood role of empathy and emotional intelligence in female decision-making. Where these traits might be seen as secondary or even a hindrance in a purely logical framework, for many women, they are central to the decision-making process. It's not simply about feeling emotions, but about an acute ability to perceive, understand, and predict the emotional states and reactions of others, and then integrate this complex data into their choices. This capacity, honed over millennia for fostering cooperation and ensuring the well-being of a social unit, means that a decision is often evaluated not just on its objective merits, but on its emotional impact, on herself, on her loved ones, on her broader community. The dark truth here is that this profound emotional intelligence, this ability to navigate the subtle currents of human feeling, is often mischaracterized as being overly emotional, rather than recognized as a sophisticated form of foresight and relational strategy. It's a skill set that allows for more nuanced, sustainable outcomes, yet it is frequently devalued in a world that often prioritizes cold logic above all else. Consider a woman in a leadership position faced with a difficult business decision, perhaps a restructuring that will impact employees. While a purely analytical approach might focus solely on quarterly profits and efficiency metrics, her decision-making process is often enriched by a deeper consideration of the human cost. The anxiety of job loss, the disruption to families, the long-term impact on morale and company culture. Her choice, while still aiming for profitability, might seek solutions that mitigate suffering, that offer support, or that prioritize the long-term health of the team over immediate, ruthless gains. This isn't a weakness. It's a testament to a broader, more holistic view of success, one that factors in the unseen currencies of loyalty, trust, and human dignity. Yet, this approach can sometimes be seen as soft or indecisive by those who operate from a more singular, objective-driven paradigm, overlooking the deeper value it creates. Another powerful, yet often unacknowledged, factor is the legacy of societal conditioning and systemic bias. For generations, women have been subtly, and not so subtly, trained to defer, to compromise, to prioritize harmony over assertion. These deeply ingrained patterns, passed down through cultural narratives, familial expectations, and institutional structures, create an internal script that often dictates choices before conscious thought even fully engages. A woman might feel a strong conviction, a clear path forward, but an invisible hand, guided by decades of conditioning, might pull her back, urging caution, promoting appeasement, or suggesting self-sacrifice. This isn't a conscious choice to be passive. It's a deeply internalized psychological program, a testament to the enduring power of history and culture to shape individual agency. The dark truth here is how deeply these external forces embed themselves within our internal decision-making frameworks, influencing autonomy at its very core. Think of the seemingly simple act of a woman choosing to pursue a non-traditional career path. Her decision is not just about her passion or aptitude. It's often a battle against an invisible current of societal skepticism, familial concern, or subtle discouragement. She might have to justify her choice more rigorously, prove herself more consistently, and face doubts that her male counterparts rarely encounter. Every step forward is an act of defiance, a quiet rebellion against an unspoken norm. This constant need to justify, to push against invisible resistance, can subtly erode confidence, leading to decisions that are more cautious, more hedged, or even abandoned altogether. Not due to a lack of desire, but due to the exhausting weight of societal expectations. And what about the insidious influence of self-doubt, often amplified by this constant external scrutiny? When every choice is dissected, when every emotional expression is analyzed through a gendered lens, it can lead to a pervasive questioning of one's own judgment. A woman might second-guess her instincts, seek external validation excessively, or postpone decisions out of a fear of making the wrong choice. Not just wrong in outcome, but wrong in perception. This self-doubt isn't inherent. It's often a cultivated response to a world that has frequently questioned her capacity, her rationality, and her inherent wisdom. The darker truth is how deeply this external skepticism can internalize, becoming a silent saboteur within the very process of decision-making, whispering uncertainties where conviction once stood. This can lead to a phenomenon where women, despite having clear internal preferences or strong analytical capabilities, might resort to a more relational or consensus-seeking approach, not because it's always their primary preference, but as a strategic maneuver to minimize potential backlash or to build a broader base of support for their choices. It's a form of intelligent adaptation to a complex environment, a way of navigating social currents. But it can also mask their true desires or dilute the impact of their original vision. The darkness lies in the necessity of these strategic convolutions, the extra layers of consideration required, simply to have one's decisions accepted or respected in certain contexts. This constant negotiation with external expectations and internal scripts creates a unique landscape for the female mind, one that often leads to a heightened sense of responsibility for outcomes, not just for oneself, but for all those connected. When a decision goes awry, The internal monologue for a woman might delve deeper into self-blame, scrutinizing every nuance of the choice, every missed signal, every potential ripple effect that could have been avoided. This isn't just about accountability. It's about a profound, often overwhelming, sense of personal culpability for the well-being of the collective. This intense burden can make risk-taking feel far more daunting, innovation more terrifying, and assertive leadership a heavier crown to bear. The dark truth here is the invisible weight of the world that often rests on a woman's shoulders, subtly influencing her willingness to step into the unknown or challenge the status quo. Consider the archetype of the caretaker, a role often ascribed to women across cultures. While nurturing and empathy are invaluable human qualities, when elevated to an unyielding expectation, it can subtly distort decision-making. A woman might choose to stay in a demanding, unfulfilling role, not out of personal ambition, but out of a perceived duty to provide stability for her family. She might delay pursuing her own dreams, rationalizing that now is not the time, because others' needs are more pressing. Her decisions become less about her deepest desires and more about fulfilling a prescribed role, often without conscious awareness of how deeply ingrained this programming has become. The personal cost of such prolonged self-sacrifice can be immense, leading to burnout, resentment, and a profound sense of lost identity, all outcomes of decisions made under the shadow of unseen expectations. Furthermore, there's a nuanced interplay with biological and physiological rhythms that profoundly impacts decision-making, a truth rarely discussed openly. The fluctuating hormonal landscape, the cycles of energy and introspection, can subtly influence mood, perception, and cognitive processing. While often dismissed as hormonal irrationality, these natural rhythms are, in fact, powerful biological tides that can shift perspectives, enhance certain types of intuition, or amplify emotional responses. The dark truth is not that these fluctuations make women less capable, but that they represent an unacknowledged layer of complexity in decision-making that is neither fully understood nor respected in a world built largely on linear, unchanging male physiological models. Instead of being viewed as a source of dynamic insight or varied cognitive strength, they are often cast as a source of unreliability. Imagine a critical decision needing to be made in a high-pressure environment. For a woman, her internal processing might be influenced by a phase in her cycle that naturally enhances introspection and sensitivity, making her more attuned to subtle relational cues, but perhaps also more susceptible to overwhelm if not properly managed. This isn't a flaw, it's a difference. The challenge lies in a societal framework that rarely accounts for these natural variations, forcing women to operate within a rigid paradigm that implicitly devalues these natural rhythms, pushing them to ignore their own internal signals in favor of a constant, undifferentiated performance. The result can be increased stress, a disconnect from their own bodies, and decisions made without the full integration of their unique biological wisdom. This brings us to the subtle, yet pervasive, issue of invisible labor, the constant, unacknowledged mental effort involved in managing households, relationships, and emotional landscapes, often termed emotional labor or the mental load. Every decision a woman makes, from choosing what to cook for dinner to planning a child's education, to remembering a distant relative's birthday, is layered atop this ongoing, exhaustive mental calculus. This constant background hum of responsibility drains cognitive resources, leaving less mental bandwidth for large, strategic decisions or for purely self-focused pursuits. The dark truth here is that this immense, unrecognized labor fundamentally alters the capacity for, and the nature of, decision-making. Yet it remains largely unseen and unaddressed by society at large, often leaving women feeling perpetually overwhelmed and stretched thin. This invisible burden can lead to a kind of decision fatigue, where simpler, less demanding choices are prioritized, or where decisions are made quickly, simply to alleviate the cognitive load. It's not a lack of intellectual capacity, but a depletion of mental energy, much like a computer slowing down under the weight of too many open programs. The consequence is that profound, life-altering decisions might not receive the full, undisturbed attention they deserve, simply because the brain is already working overtime managing the incessant demands of daily life and relational responsibilities. This subtle erosion of mental bandwidth is perhaps one of the most insidious, dark truths about female decision-making, impacting not just individual choices, but the trajectory of entire lives. This culmination of pressurous societal expectations, emotional intelligence, biological rhythms, and the invisible mental load creates a unique and often challenging decision-making environment for women. The dark truth isn't that female decision-making is flawed, but that it is profoundly complex, multifaceted, and often undervalued, because it doesn't fit neatly into traditional, often masculine, frameworks of logic and efficiency. We've been operating under the assumption that there's one right way to make a decision, when in reality, the female approach, with its deep integration of context, relationships, and emotional foresight, offers a rich, often more sustainable path forward. The challenge lies not with women, but with the paradigms through which we judge their choices. But within these very complexities lie immense, often untapped strengths. The ability to consider multiple variables simultaneously, to anticipate ripple effects, to integrate emotional intelligence with logical reasoning. These are not weaknesses to be overcome, but profound advantages. In an increasingly interconnected and complex world, these capacities are becoming not just valuable, but essential. Decisions made with a broader understanding of human impact, with an eye towards relational harmony, and with an intuitive grasp of nuanced dynamics, often lead to more resilient systems, more collaborative environments, and ultimately, more holistic success. The dark truth here transitions into a powerful revelation. What was once deemed a hindrance can, in fact, be the very source of a transformative power. The path forward, then, is not about asking women to conform to a different style of decision-making, but about fostering an environment that values and leverages their inherent strengths. It's about recognizing the invisible labor, acknowledging the emotional depth, and appreciating the multifaceted perspective that women bring to the table. It means creating spaces where empathy is seen as a strategic asset, where intuition is respected as a form of accelerated data processing, and where decisions are evaluated not just by their immediate tangible outcomes, but by their broader, long-term impact on well-being and connection. This requires a societal shift, a conscious effort to dismantle outdated stereotypes and to cultivate a more inclusive understanding of what constitutes effective decision-making. For individual women, understanding these dark truths is not about feeling burdened by them, but about achieving a profound sense of self-awareness and liberation. It's about recognizing the external pressures and internalized narratives that may have subtly swayed their past choices, and then consciously reclaiming their agency. It's about discerning between a choice born of genuine intuition and one compelled by fear of judgment or an ingrained sense of obligation. This self-awareness allows them to lean into their unique strengths, their empathy, their relational intelligence, their nuanced foresight, with confidence, knowing that these are not liabilities, but powerful tools for navigating a complex world. This journey of understanding leads to a powerful form of self-trust. When a woman learns to differentiate her authentic voice from the cacophony of external expectations and internalized biases, she begins to trust her own judgment more deeply. Her decisions become more aligned with her true values and desires, leading to a greater sense of fulfillment, purpose, and inner peace. The emotional rhythm that once seemed to complicate her choices now becomes a reliable compass, guiding her towards paths that resonate with her deepest self. She moves beyond mere coping mechanisms and into a space of deliberate, empowered choice. In the end, the dark truths about female decision-making are not a condemnation, but an illumination. They shine a light on the intricate, often unseen forces that shape women's choices, revealing not inherent weakness, but extraordinary adaptability, profound resilience, and an untapped wellspring of wisdom. By pulling back the veil, we don't diminish the complexity, we elevate it. We recognize that in the very heart of these challenges lies a unique capacity for holistic, insightful leadership, and a deeply human way of navigating the world's most challenging crossroads. It is a powerful reminder that true strength often lies not in conforming, but in authentically embracing the full, beautiful, and sometimes dark truths of who we are. And in doing so, we don't just empower individual women, we enrich the entire human experience.